Well, let's stay in the NFC North, Colin. The Vikings. They're coming off that L to the Lions, first loss of the season. But good news, perhaps. It sounds like for Thursday Night Football against the Rams, TJ Hawkinson may be able to play. It is early. Here's Kevin O'Connell on his status.
It's early. We'll make that determination, kind of as these next couple days. We obviously, as we put together the game plans, want to have a good feel for that. But, very much a possibility. If we can have him, great. If not, I do feel very positive about the Colts game for sure. But he's not. I'm not in a place yet to rule him out quite yet.
I totally forgot Hawkinson was out. They've missed Jordan Addison at times. Aaron Jones, a running back. When they're fully formed, that's a pretty dangerous Vikings team.
There is an argument that the three best teams in the NFC are Detroit, Green Bay, and Minnesota. That's never happened before. All in the same division.
But the counter would be, hey, it's week 7. That's wonderful.
I know.
Check in with me in week 14 when C-Mac is back. When Debo Samuel
we knew the
back.
division would be good. I think Chicago and Minnesota's better than we thought. Chicago's a little better. Green Bay and Detroit, this is what we thought they were. Chicago is slightly better than I thought. I thought they would. I said 7-8 wins. I still think if you look at their schedule in about 3 weeks, they're going to end up 7-8 wins.
I just keep an eye on the Eagles. They're that horse in the race that's kind of back and waiting. You're waiting for them to make their run. The schedule loosens up second half of the season. They could be the number 1 seed. Don't rule out the Eagles. Now watch them get smashed by the Bengals this weekend. But final story, Colin.
All right. Well, they kind of talked about everything but the Vikings, really. But, yeah, listen. I'm so tired of this idea to just be like, oh, the Vikings might be one of the best teams in the NFC. They're one of the best teams in the NFL. Okay? Let me say it one more time. I'll probably say it a lot more times. Let's be serious here. The Minnesota Vikings are one of the best teams in the NFL. That was an amazing game versus the Lions. And they were right there. So by them losing that game, it's in no way of like, oh, they're not good enough. They don't got it. And the fact that they're still not 100% is incredible. You don't think TJ would have made a difference in that game or any of the other games that they played in? And it probably will take a second now, right? He's been out long enough. Has to get reintegrated, right? Him and Sam Darnold need to get on the same page. But the fact that the Vikings have been as great as they have been and have been, again, on both sides of the ball, that's what matters to me more than anything. It's both sides. It's not just one side. If they were being carried by one side and they had a clear weakness, a clear weak link, a clear deficit, then you would say, all right, yeah, they've been able to get by, but how sustainable? And that's why, I ignore when J-Mac's like, oh, it's week 7. Talk to me what happens in week whatever. And it's like, yeah, if they were just getting by on their defense or just by on their offense, then I would understand. I really would. If they were really babying and hiding Sam Darnold, they were like, yeah, the dude can throw the ball, but he's not really we can't really ask him to do anything. We're just trying to hold this together, and we've been able to get some wins. That's not the situation. The situation is that they're not fully formed yet, and yet they keep winning and having convincing wins. And the Lions, who a lot of people think are true top contenders and even Super Bowl favorites, depending on who you ask, the Vikings were right there. And they weren't 100%. And they're about to be. So the Vikings, I think it's so interesting to me to see the Vikings continue to not get a lot of attention, quite frankly. When the Vikings lost to the Lions, it was really majority all about the Lions, right? No one really unpacked, except for myself, what this means for the Vikings, right? How did the Vikings lose? What do the Vikings need to do better? What does it mean for them moving forward, right? I unpacked all of that, but it was such a minimal aspect of the discussion. It was really definitely all more centered around the Lions. And quite frankly, there's been more discussions about Caleb Williams and the Jacksonville Jaguars. Okay. So even this conversation right here derailed into like, you know, Chicago Bears, Philadelphia Eagles. And it's like, and I'm all for talking about those teams, right? Like I talk about all the teams, but it's just like, man, on any of these shows, right? No matter what the show is. So I'm not calling out any individual show, and I'm not even trying to call out these shows in general. It's the way the media landscape works. But it's just like, can we get like a nice, legit 10-minute back and forth discussion about the Vikings? Like, let's go. Like, it doesn't seem to me right now that a lot of teams and a lot of people, even in the media or wherever, ex-players, current players, whatever, there's not a lot of fear around the Minnesota Vikings or belief in the Minnesota Vikings. I think there was a little bit, but not as much as I think there should be. And I think I realize why. Because the Minnesota Vikings are not an F1 truck. I mean, they're not an F1 race car. They're not a Lamborghini. They're not a Porsche. I don't really know many very nice cars because it's not me. Right? They're not this super fancy, flashy, right? You have the Lions. You see the Lions going for it on fourth down, trick plays, doing all this cool stuff that, like I always say, you don't even need to know anything about football, but if you watch it, you're like, that's cool. That's a cool thing. That's a cool play. And the Vikings are just all about business. So they are like that truck. An F-150. They are that truck that's like not super flashy, right? It's got some decent speakers, but it's powerful, right? It can do all the dirty work. That's what the Vikings defense does. That's what that offense does. I mean, you got Jefferson who's just getting to work, right? They're not doing all this fancy stuff because they can just get him the ball and he just does the rest. Right? Sam Darnold delivers the ball to him and he's got it. Let's go. And that's what TJ will bring as well. So it's just less fancy. So I think people get less excited by watching it when you realize though, like what they're doing, they're just getting to work. Right? They're clocking in and clocking out. So it's just very, very interesting to me that what will it take for the Vikings to truly get the respect that I think that they need or that they deserve? Not that they need, that they deserve. Because I'm really curious how this season unfolds, especially with TJ, because it's just like, again, they're like, oh, they might be one of the best teams in the NFC. They are one of the best teams in the NFL. So to reduce it just to the NFC is absurd. Are people saying that the Chiefs or the Ravens are one of the best teams in the AFC? Or are they saying they're one of the best teams in the NFL? We already know that answer. So, just interesting to me. And I get it. Maybe because the Vikings don't have this recent established history, right? They weren't this great dominant team last year. I know they got to a good start, but injuries and whatnot. But that's why maybe the Lions have a little bit more momentum because they were in the NFC Championship game last year. They do have the very fancy play calling, all the trick plays and all the fun stuff that people love. They got the fiery head coach in Dan Campbell, right? So maybe it's just a little bit more of a buzz to go around. The Bears have rookie Caleb Williams, who's supposed to be, better than Patrick Mahomes, so they get lots of buzz. Also, major cities, massive popular cities relative to what the Twin Cities are. But it is interesting. And you know what? My experience, and it's limited, I admit, in Minnesota, in any of the various places that I've been around, St. Paul, Minneapolis, and a couple other neighborhoods that I wouldn't even remotely remember, is that there's so much more chill there and nice there and laid back there that it is actually so fitting. I say this all the time because I've been all around this country, And, people will always be like, oh, where's the nice, are people nicer out in the West Coast? Because that's kind of the whole idea, right? Out in the West, in Southern California, people are more chill and laid back. And I always say the nicest people that I've been around and met all are from Minnesota, right? I'm like, that's where all the nice people are, actually. I was like, without a doubt. And I find that so interesting because in a lot of ways, they don't demand that respect. They don't demand that attention, even in the comment section and stuff like that. Of course, there's still fans that are going to be fans and all that, but it's just a different energy, right? It's a different energy that the Minnesota Vikings bring and the fans bring and the cities themselves bring, and I think it actually aligns perfectly with the type of attention that they get via the media and the respect that they get. So I think the Vikings will continue to surprise a lot of people. And I wonder if it'll be one of those things that they don't finally get the respect until they are in an NFC championship game or they are in the Super Bowl. Because I think in a lot of ways, no matter what they do, they could win every single game from here on out. And the Chiefs could lose every single game from here, but somehow still make the playoffs because of some crazy, mathematical reason. And they could face each other in the Super Bowl and people would still pick the Chiefs or the Ravens, right? They would, I can't imagine, no matter who, if the Vikings were able to get to an NFC championship game or the Super Bowl, I can't imagine many people picking them to win, no matter what they do. No matter if they won every single game from here on out by 10 points, I still think people would not pick the Vikings in an NFC championship game or in the Super Bowl, no matter what. So, yeah, take that as you will, quite frankly, take that as you will. Because even the spread right now, 2.5 against the Rams, I find pretty interesting. I know it's short rest and all of that, but still kind of an interesting line, quite frankly. But those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about the Minnesota Vikings getting TJ back? What this all means, how good they are, what their continued trajectory is. Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment, so whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions, let's get in some fights, but ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and I'd absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to, something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're well on our way to doing it. And please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much, and see you next time.